Hey guys, Mike Sprague here with Icon Real Estate, and I'm here with
Ross Lehman from Integrity Home Mortgage.
and we're here talking about what is home equity and what you can do about it and why it's important to you. So, first question to you, Ross, the big question is, what is home equity?
Yeah, so home equity is basically taking a look at what is the value of your home, what do you owe on the home, and you're subtracting what you owe from the value. So, for example, easy example, let's say you owe $100,000 on your mortgage, and let's say your home value is $250,000. Okay, the difference would be $150,000. That's what your equity would be in that property.
Sounds easy enough. So it's just value minus whatever you owe equals whatever your equity is.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very simple concept to understand, but it's one of those unsung heroes of real estate. And the great reason is because you can utilize it for many things that we'll talk about here. What I want to ask you is, what is a good way of valuing that? Because I get a lot of clients and they come to me and they're saying, hey, I went online and my value is saying X, and my neighbor down the street sold his house for this much amount of money. So, when you're talking to a consumer, what's your suggestion on how to value their property?
So the online platforms that you're talking about is a decent rule of thumb, but it's not what I would put my trust in entirely. It's a very generic approach on how they're determining their value.
Okay.
But what I provide for clients at no cost to them is a home valuation to say, okay, this is the current state of the market, this is the current condition and the pros and cons of your home, your neighborhood, whatever, and we can come up with a market value of your property at that time. So it's a very hands-on, very detailed, fine-tune approach to your value versus the online stuff is kind of a very generic, one-size-fits-all approach, and it's not going to be very accurate. So you could be well extreme over what your actual value is or well extreme below, or they could get lucky and hit it on the head, but again, it's not something that I would rely on personally. So allow me to come chat with you, assess what your home's value is, discuss what the current trends in the market are in your location, and that's how we'll get you a detailed analysis of what your value of your property is today.
Gotcha. And I just want to make sure, you said you're going to do that at no cost, right? So it doesn't cost you guys really anything for you to come and take a look at it. You'll probably want to see the property so you can get comparables, correct?
Yeah, knowing where you live, your address, stuff like that, that's helpful obviously, but I need to get into the home and see like, okay, do you have an updated kitchen or an outdated kitchen? Do you have a lot of work that needs to be done on the house, things that I need to see in person to be able to assess, okay, what does your house have to offer versus the comparable sales of what this house had to offer because it sold for X.
Sure, yeah. So Mike, I know that when people go into buying their home, they're going to put a down payment. That's going to be immediate equity into their home. But what are some of the other ways that people can grow equity in their home?
Yeah, so other than just kind of like paying down on the house and your value going up because of the current market and that kind of thing, which some of that's in your control, some of that's not. If you want more hands-on approach to where you want to go, like I want to build equity in this house, I want to make it worth more because maybe you got a deadline, like I only plan to be here for so long and I want to walk away with a big chunk of change, or whatever your goals are. You can improve your home. So if you bought a fixer-upper, just fixing a lot of the things is going to bring it to a different standard and a more sellable home to where it's move-in ready and not a fixer-upper anymore. So sometimes just fixing things is going to add that extra value for you. Oftentimes it's more like upgrading things, like again, if you have a 1960s type of kitchen or something, or bathrooms with like the pink tiles and that kind of thing. So if you update that to maybe a more modern style that we have now, that's going to be a bigger turn on to buyers, and that's going to increase your value. One of the biggest and easiest things for people is instead of doing like a whole new remodel and having to tear something down and go, hey, I don't have a kitchen for 2 weeks while we build a new kitchen, is adding livable space. So the probably most common one is going to be an unfinished basement.
Sure.
So you probably bought a house, you have an unfinished basement. I have a client who just closed on a brand new house. It's new today, but it has an unfinished basement. So it's not an old house that's been unfinished forever, but they could immediately take this brand new house and add value to it by finishing the basement or part of the basement, or you might have other areas of the house that are unfinished for whatever reason. And by adding livable space, you don't necessarily have to add more space by saying an addition or something like that, but adding livable space will increase your value because now you have more home to offer.
Sure. And you can help them out too if they're considering, maybe selling in a year or two, and they're thinking, hey, we're considering either adding another bedroom or adding another bathroom. You'll be able to help them plan for that.
Yeah, because in some circumstances, the added bathroom is going to be a big benefit, where in others, the bedrooms would be a big benefit. For instance, a lot of people have a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. I would say go with the bathroom, because most people are going to want that, either the master suite bathroom if it's not already there, or they're going to want a good guest bathroom so that there's not one bathroom shared by X amount of people plus guests. But in other cases, you might have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and go, well, we could really use a 4th bedroom because everyone else on the block has a 4th bedroom and we don't. So that's going to make your house more marketable to be, you're not the small house anymore. You've got the 4th bedroom that could be an office, or it could be, a million other things. So yeah, there's not one approach that's an answer for everybody. It's kind of dependent on who you are, where you're at, what your neighborhood and buying demographic looks like what's on demand now. Some people everyone's working from home now. A lot of people have more value in having a home office.
Sure.
So maybe they want that over a fancy kitchen.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the reasons people hesitate to move forward is because they say, hey, I think this is, I think my house is worth this, but they're not quite sure how they can access those funds. And so, I think that's something that I can help the consumer with, at least give them the right direction. So there's a couple of different ways that we can access those funds. And so there's basically 2 of the easiest ways, okay? That's by doing what's called a cash out refinance, where we're looking at the value of our home. We'll have to get an appraisal to look at the value. And then we're literally cashing out money to take a loan. We're going to pay off the previous loan, and then you get whatever is extra on top of that. Okay, there's certain amounts that we're only allowed to go up to. We can't go, if your house value is $300,000, we can't go up to $350,000. We're going to be limited on what the value of the phone is, or of your home is. But another option is called a home equity line of credit. Okay, home equity line of credit is when you're putting a second lien on the property. So you're keeping your first loan and you're getting a second lien on the property, and that second lien can provide the funds and access for your home equity line of credit, or for whatever you want to use for that equity.
Like a sweet vacation.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that leads me to the point is, okay, we've established that the majority of homeowners over the last especially 2 to 3 years have gained tremendous equity in their home. Okay?
Absolutely.
What are some of the reasons they could utilize that for? What could they do to help them out? Why have this equity? What can they do to help themselves with it?
So I've done a cash out refinance with you on a property that I owned, and I used the additional funds that I received from that in order to buy another property that I hold as basically my retirement. So that's one of the things that I did, is I reinvested it in purchasing another home. But they could use some of that money if they're doing like a refi and they're not selling their house to make improvements on their own home. Because they might say, well, I don't want to sell today for whatever reason, but I know that my house needs certain things. I don't have the cash for it. I do want to do certain things. And then in a couple years' time, then I'll be ready to sell. So maybe that's a way that they're going to access the funds in order to put an addition, do that deck they've always wanted to do, go ahead and remodel the kitchen, or whatever they're interested in. One of the more common things is they're going to sell their home and they're going to receive that value from the sale, and they're going to use that all or some or none if they want towards their next home. So what I always preach to people is that you can sell your house today, walk with X amount of dollars, and then if you want, you can use that money as down payment on your next purchase. And you could kind of do the shell game where you get into a big, like a hermit crab, getting to a bigger home And if you're putting that money towards your next mortgage, you're the person to discuss this with, but you could ideally move into a bigger, better, or downsize, whatever your goal is, for equal or less money on your monthly mortgage, because now you have this huge down payment that you can put towards the next property.
Definitely. And when we're talking about that transfer of property, a lot of people forget that, in the environment we've had over the last 2 years, their equity has increased significantly. So it is actually a great time, because right now people are talking about, is it a good time to buy? It's like, well, you've gained all this equity in your home, and now you can utilize that equity by transferring that into your next property. One of the other common reasons that I've seen people use equity in their homes is to maybe consolidate some of the debt that they have.
Yeah, sure. Pay off a car or something.
Pay off a car. Maybe you got consumer debt that you have for whatever it is. It might be a good way to be able to utilize some of the equity that might be at possibly a cheaper payment than the payment that you have now. Now, obviously, everybody's situation is going to be different. So for you guys as consumers, do talk to a loan officer or someone about how that's going to affect you. But I've seen that help numerous people of using that equity to help them create some margin in their life financially. So yeah, I think that's a great way of utilizing that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't really think about, but because I'm thinking always houses, but maybe someone is needing a bigger house, or maybe they're needing to downsize, and whatever their reasoning is holding them back is they might have other debts that they need to pay off. And they're like, I can afford a certain mortgage, or I can afford a certain, different style of home at a different price point after I take care of these other things they're holding me back. So yeah, you could use your equity from the sale of your home, for instance, to pay off all those little debts that have, medical bills or car payments or credit cards or whatever it is, and then go, great, we've wiped the slate clean of these things, and then now all that's left is a mortgage. You go, well, that's totally manageable now. But I think that's the point, is most people don't understand, one, what equity is, and two, what all the advantages are, because a lot of people, they know I bought the house for this and I owe roughly this. I find most people, they don't know exactly what they owe on a house too, which is kind of interesting. But when you kind of jump into it and you know what those numbers look like and you start to understand what your options are, you might go, hey, I could go from this to this and have no debt and just have this nice new house. Maybe you're in a 1960s house now and you really want a brand new one, or maybe you want a bigger house or a different location, or you want land or whatever it is. And using that equity to your advantage can get you where you want, and maybe make it even at less cost than your current cost. So it just depends on the equity and the market and kind of the deal you get and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of advantages to having equity in a house, and I don't think everyone's capitalizing on those.
For sure. So to bring this home, lots of people have equity out there. How can they get a hold of you in order to find out what their home value is worth? What's your preferred method for them to get a hold of you?
So you can find me all kinds of places. You can find me on my website, mikekinsell.com. You can find my links to social media on there as well. This video is me posted on my social media for one. You can give me a call, shoot me an email. I'll have all that information in the description as well. And then how about you? So when someone's decided, hey, I've talked to Mike, we've kind of come up with a game plan, we have a feeling of what I'd walk away with selling this house, and they want to figure out, okay, what's the best use of this money? Should I use it towards buying a new house? How much of it? Should I put some of it over here and some of it over there? Some of it in my retirement, some of it. So how would they get in touch with you to have that conversation to go, how do we utilize what we have?
Yeah, so my contact details are going to be below. You can also find me at mortgagebyross.com or Mortgage by Ross on Facebook. So what we'll do is we'll sit down and look at your individual situation and find out what is the best use of your money. A cash out refinance might be best, a home equity might be best, or maybe doing nothing at this time, just preparing for the future and getting that plan in place may be the best option, but we'll find out what's best for you there.
That's an excellent point. That maybe right now is not the time, but getting the information and just kind of planning for the future can be a huge benefit. Some of the biggest mistakes I've had in life is just not being educated on something and making a big assumption, and then later down the road getting educated and go, if I'd have known this earlier, I could have planned better and maybe had a better outcome. So even if now's not the time, let's get you some information so you can at least plan and go, well, maybe this is my 3-year plan, my 5-year plan, 10-year plan, whatever. Just keep you up to date with what you have, what you can do with it, and then you make an informed decision on what you'd like to do. Either way, we're here to help.
Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. Hope you have a great day.
See ya.